Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to ask you to mute yourself while the webinar, and then you can open your mic at the end of the presentation for questions and answers. So thank you. So first of all, thank you for joining us. For those who don't know me, I'm Lilian Sestari, head of the SAP practices at Qualex. Just to give you a quick introduction about myself, I've been helping companies for over 10 years, building not only analytics, but automating their business processes so they increase their productivity. So that's why today we will talk about the importance of quality data warehousing in sports and actually other industries that face the same challenge of keeping highly engaged with their customers in order to grow and become more competitive. So in our agenda, I will introduce you our guest speaker, Charlie Shin from Major League Soccer, and Kevin Dillon, our sports and entertainment practice manager. Charlie will kick off the webinar with some business background details such as business vision and objectives. We'll understand how to identify your weakness and area of key focus from a business standpoint, how to implement quick wins, and what a blueprint for success looks like. Then Kevin will join us to explain how Qualex has helped companies enabling technologies to achieve those results. And finally, we'll have about 10 minutes for questions and answers. There is a small chat box on the bottom, so you can use it in case you need to clarify anything during the webinar, okay? With that said, let me start by introducing Charlie Shin. Charlie has over 18 years of experience in customer strategy and marketing. He joined Major League Soccer in 2006 and currently serves as the Senior Director of CRM and Analytics. He is responsible for customer relationship management and supports the development of the league through strategic marketing initiatives. His background involves working in companies such as IBM and PricewaterhouseCoopers for over 6 years. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration and a Master in Sports Business. On the other hand, we have Kevin, who has over 20 years of experience in international business development and project management. He joined Qualex in 2011 as the Director of Oil and Gas and now serves on the sports and entertainment side. He also helps sports organizations drive technology strategies and therefore revenue growth. So with that, I will now pass it over to Charlie. So Charlie, you're now the presenter.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. This is Charlie Shin. Thank you again for the introduction and the opportunity to speak to everyone here. Having gone through this process for the last 5-6 years at MLS, I know it's quite of a task in preparing for implementing or about thinking about implementing or developing a data warehouse. So what I wanted to kind of talk about today was kind of share some of the approach and the steps that we've taken at MLS and hope that it could help you in preparing your planning for development of data warehouse. So just to give you a background, when you think about building a quality data warehouse, really it starts with having a clear vision as well as a blueprint. It's not about technology. It's not even about data points at this point. It's more about what is the purpose of your data warehouse and what you're trying to achieve from it. So I'd like to kind of share today the thinking process and the journey that we're currently going through, as well as how we were able to build very unique centralized data warehouse that's becoming the foundations for our transformation and becoming more of a centric organization. So next page. As I've mentioned, when we first started this process of thinking not just in terms of building a data warehouse, but overall, what is the need for our CRM strategy? We started to think about how we would be able to incorporate not just the league, but also the clubs that are part of our league, as well as our sponsors, and most importantly, our fans. And we felt that the data will help us really enhance everyone's one-to-one marketing capabilities across each of those parties, and that will be kind of the center role of what our vision would look like, and how do we leverage the data so that we're able to provide and improve our marketing capabilities for our clubs, our league, as well as partners, so that we're able to serve our fans better. And that really was the starting point on how we think about what our plans were. If you go to the next page, and then the steps that we've talked about was, with that in mind, in wanting to build those capabilities, we really needed to understand what our weakness was. What are the things that we're not doing well? What are the things that we currently don't have? So that we could identify the areas for an improvement. And what we recognized was that we had very key challenges across 4 main areas in order for us to achieve the goal and the objectives that we've just talked about. One was really lacked in integration. And this was not just within the league, but between the league and clubs. There was a lot of data that exists in silos. The clubs would only have visibility into their ticketing data versus league would only have visibility into a lot of the digital engagement data. So we need to have a better integration across all of our touch points. One other thing that we recognized was we had very limited infrastructures. The technologies that we've had access to really didn't support everything that we wanted to do. Now that meant a lot of investment. So one of the things that we were thinking about was, what can we do to be more efficient in terms of investments around technology, as well as there was a lot of disparity between the clubs that had a little bit more resource versus those clubs that didn't have resource. So how do we elevate everyone's technology infrastructure so that they all have access to advanced tools that they would be able to utilize? And then we really lacked in the data management and analytic capability. We not only didn't have the human resource to manage this, also there was a lack of understanding in terms of the value that the customer data brings to the business. So those were some of the challenge that we recognized within our organization. And last but not least was lack of data usability. How do we leverage the data that we do have access? There were a lot of general communication that's being put in place, mass emails that were going out, nothing personalized. There wasn't any kind of usage in terms of leveraging past transaction data or past engagement data. So really wanted to see how we could improve the actual usability of our data. So these were some of the challenges that we recognized when we first went through the process. The reason why this is important is everyone's at a different point. Everyone has a different objective and a vision in terms of what they're trying to do. So everyone's naturally going to have different weaknesses and challenges. If we don't recognize this, and if we try to just implement data warehouse because some other sports property has done it and they've done it this way and try to replicate it, sometimes it's not going to work because not everyone has the same objective or the challenges that they're faced with. So I think it's really important for every organization to look back in terms of the weakness that they're faced with in trying to achieve the vision and the objective that's set in at the beginning of their project. So the next page, once we identify these weaknesses, what we wanted to do was we've identified the key areas of key focus. So knowing the challenges that we're faced with, what are the 3 key areas that we wanted to focus on? And these were the 3 key principles that we've considered when we started to think about the enterprise-wide CRM initiative. The first one was how do we centralize the infrastructure? And not only from an efficiency of the technology investment, we also wanted to make sure, because we had challenges in terms of data quality and data access, we wanted to make sure that we were able to create a centralized infrastructure that can be leveraged across the league as well as our clubs, and really be able to provide a quality data all around. Second, we wanted to improve the analytic capabilities. So that was an area that we've identified as the key areas that we needed to focus on, because we wanted to make sure that we improved our usability on all of the data that we've had access to. And then the last piece was data consolidation and enhancement. As we talked about, some of the challenge was different silos that existed, different data and different systems, and we wanted to make sure that we were able to have a holistic view, but at the same time, enhancing those data, whether it's working with third-party providers or even with our second-party data, as well as just first-party data, our data in itself. How do we improve the data, different data sets might be the same people, but exist in different systems or touch points that we're able to provide, so that we all have an understanding in terms of having that single view. So those were the three areas that we decided that we were going to focus on our overall enterprise-wide CRM initiatives. If you go to the next page, now one of the important things that we recognized was, because it's an enterprise initiative, there's a lot of key stakeholders that's involved. For us, it was our clubs, our digital teams, our senior executives. It could be our IT department. What we needed to make sure that we do was have a clear communications to our key stakeholders, so that everyone was brought into this project and saw the benefits of this project, not just from an enterprise standpoint, but also from individuals' business area standpoint. So we made sure that we highlighted the benefits from a quality data management, how this we would able to provide a holistic view of our customer engagement and transactions across all of our touch points for the league as well as our clubs. The data hygiene and the data enhancement that we would be able to do. And then the standardization of the database. Because there were so many different systems that we were accessing, and every system has their own data standards, we wanted to make sure that by consolidating all this, we would be able to have a standard data set for every club and the league, so that when we do something, it's scalable. And then the analytic modeling, with the central resource and the quality data, then we will be able to have a much stronger analytic resource from a tool standpoint as well as staffing standpoint, but also provide more advanced analytic capabilities from a modeling to the actual analysis. These are all the things that we're able to kind of highlight to our key stakeholders and bring them into the fold, so they're on board with it and would become the evangelist across the enterprise. Next. Now, one of the things that's going to be a lot of people that's going to be faced with when implementing a data warehousing project is that it's a very long process, as well as sometimes it's hard to showcase the outcomes, because you're basically just, consolidating a bunch of data, and it's really hard to showcase the benefits. And that's why it's more important to have those kind of quick wins and be able to implement something that's going to show the value or show the impact as you progress throughout your development process. So a couple of things that we've done, one of them was we've talked about different silos of data, and we wanted to kind of highlight the impact this would have by consolidating. Because everyone thought, well, it's going to be the same data, it's all going to be kind of aggregated, but really there's not going to be much of added value or new data that's going to be coming across. And we've actually gone through and did a whole data overlap analysis with different silos to show, especially to our clubs, the value in terms of integrating with the league data source was that there was a whole lot of new data that they would get access to. So we were able to take their data, overlay that with our international event data, our league digital database, our online subscriptions, merchandise, and as you can see, there were very little overlaps, which meant that there was a lot of data that we've had access to that our clubs didn't have access to. So that in itself really showed them that there was a value they were going to get. Other thing was we were able to do small-scale pilot campaigns, leveraging the data that we were able to get access to by consolidating and doing a lot of the targeted sales campaign using various different informations like favorite clubs, genders, past purchase information, and we were able to show kind of pre and post the impact of the average sales per email that it was generating. So again, quick things. Doesn't have to be using all your data. It could just be a small set of data, but doing a control group versus your target group and being able to showcase the difference will be able to show them the impact of database and kind of start thinking about what would this mean when you scale out across the enterprise. And I'm sure there's other things that you could do. These are just two quick examples. The next page. So having gone through this process, communicating to your stakeholders as well as kind of showing some of the quick wins, we were able to build out a blueprint for success in terms of what we believe to be the right model for the CRM architectural, especially from a technology standpoint that's going to be able to serve our overall business objectives and the vision that we've set in place. And this is kind of the blueprint of what the setting is currently. So we have, we kind of divide overall areas into three: the customer data management, data analytics, and then the direct-to-send functionalities. Again, this reflects back to the areas that we saw as a core areas that we want to focus on based on the challenge that we've had as well as reflecting our vision. So this might look differently for other people. But because of this, we focused on building the data warehouse, and then we also build on resource around customer analytics, and then the customer interactions of marketing technology. And we're using various technologies to enable this, but this is kind of the blueprint, and everything that we're doing right now is really built off of this. And it's been, very helpful in terms of working with the Qualex and making sure we bring this to life. So this is it in terms of kind of sharing some high levels of the steps that we've gone through. And again, it's really important to have a position in terms of what you're trying to achieve, so that you're not trying to do everything, but you're really focused on what you lack in and what you need to improve, and hopefully that will help you achieve the goals that you've set in place.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. I think this is time for me to start talking. My name is Kevin Dillon, and I'm with Qualex and the director at this point with the sports business. And I think in the beginning, Lillian talked about my time with Qualex, but here talking about sports specifically and Qualex specifically, we've been in analytics since 1995. The differences about analytics since 1995 are really about the data that is being collected. And analytics, you're looking at data and analyzing different situations, different issues, different business different business contexts and things that you want to understand about your business through the data that you are collecting. Over time, companies have taken, and specifically in the sports business, companies have started collecting more and more and more data. And in this particular industry, sports, it's the entertainment industry, it's really how do we get our customers, as in a fan, how do we get our customers to spend their entertainment dollars on our events, on our, whether it's games and our sport, on our entertainment, on our, if it's a concert, because people are spending entertainment dollars. And so the idea is, by knowing who our customers are and by knowing when and how we want to connect with them and communicate to them, understanding their behaviors, whether it's buying behaviors, whether it's in buying tickets, whether it's behaviors in buying merchandise or behaviors in buying food and beverage when they're at the games, whatever the buying behaviors are, how do we market to them to give them opportunities to get more of what they want? So, I mean, looking at this slide, there's a lot of things here, but basically what we're looking at is when we communicate with them, who they are, when we communicate with them, and what we know about them, and basically how we plan to communicate to them as far as channels, sending them emails, sending them text messages on their phones, giving them links and websites and putting communications in those websites. All of that information today is available. And if you look at the list of the type of information that's available, and it's way more than this. I mean, the food and beverage and ticketing, those are all basic. Marketing and advertising, that's all basic. But when you're starting to look at social data, when you're starting to look at demographics data, and you're starting to and you're able to align all of that data with a particular person and understand this is a customer, this is some of their buying behaviors. Let me give you an example. Through analytics, understanding your VIP customers and looking at the campaigns you've sent to them and what they react to, 30% of them are interested in discounts. So if you're sending discounts, blanket discounts to all your customers in certain situations, you're wasting 70%, because you're giving away more than you should be, because 70% of them aren't so discount sensitive as 30%. So identifying that 30% and those being the ones that you send, let's say, merchandise discount while you're in the stadium or the arena, sending them that on their mobile phone, that's how you want to send a campaign and how you want to communicate with them when they're in the stadium. And those are the ones that are discount sensitive. You're likely to have a much higher performance of that campaign than if you sent out a blanket, send everybody that's in the stadium a discount. You're giving away a lot. So that's an example, and this slide is really just an overall about the more you know about your customer and the more you know how they like to be communicated with and what they respond to in communications, the better you are able to give them what they want, because the ultimate idea here is about fan experience. If they're getting a great fan experience, they're going to be spending more money doing it. If they're not, and this means everything. Going to a movie is simple. Going to a stadium and parking and getting to your seats, that's not so simple. So you've got to make those things simple. But the idea is you've got all the data. You've got the data to know when they're in the stadium. You've got the data to know when they haven't purchased a ticket, when they normally purchase tickets. You have the ability to know what are their buying, what is their behaviors if they're organizing 8 or 10 people and buying group tickets at a time. There are certain behaviors that you know, and as you know those, you can market directly to those. So that's what this slide's about. And those are the things. Now, we in the sports business have spent a good amount of time working with Charlie in MLS and have learned a great deal about how the sports business from a very, let me say, a complex, multi-level environment works. And so this is, as Charlie was saying, this is a very complicated endeavor and requires and has the ability to really be fine-tuned and focused. Let's look at the next slide. I think that's you, Lillian. Good, thanks. And so here, again, more of the same. Looking at this, we're talking about basically what we can do to capture more wallet share of a fan. And then the additional part of that is, how do we get more fans? How do we take entertainment dollars from a person who's not going to a sport event and convert them to going to sports events for their entertainment dollar? And if you're looking here, I mean, these are many of the things that are in sports these days. You can see them on the left. The general trend in all of industry is collecting more and more data. The strategic part of it is, what do we do with that data and how do we use it to optimize what our business is about? And in sports, our business is about getting more people to more events and getting new people to events. So you can look here and see what earnings growth and what the CEO's survey says. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're not analyzing, if you're not collecting a lot of data and analyzing it to improve your business, there are a lot of companies that are, and you're missing a lot of opportunities. So that's let's say that's the takeaway from this particular slide. We can go to the next one, Lillian. And this slide is really about Qualex ourselves. We work in many industries, not just sports and entertainment. We work in casino business. We work in retail. A lot of these businesses are very similar. And then we work in some different businesses like healthcare and finance. Healthcare and finance are more about transactions, and healthcare are more about plans and programs and people, and how they spend their healthcare dollars and what they do, those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, analytics is about really taking advantage of the data that you're collecting to focus on business issues to better optimize how to run your business. And so at Qualex, we've been doing that for 20 years. We work with lots of big companies, small companies. We've got international locations and offices and projects. We have the ability to do rapid deployments and are in the process of doing those. Our expertise is around the warehouse itself, the data integration and building, whether it's big high-speed data warehouses or whether it's just, let's say, normal data warehouses. But at the end of the day, it's a data warehouse is, as Charlie said, is a real complex designed element that has to suit the needs of the business and what objectives and goals you're trying to accomplish. And it's not just a database. And then when it comes to, again, back to Qualex, working on all the infrastructure around that data warehouse, because there are multiple data sources that come into that warehouse. There's multiple downstream processes that interact with that data and feed data to CRM departments, to sales departments selling tickets, to marketing departments creating campaigns. And so it's about understanding the business needs and identifying how to build the processes around the business intelligence that are required. And all of these areas are areas that we've worked on with multiple clients. And that's really the end of the commercial about Qualex, but the next slide just shows some of the companies that we've worked with. And it's a good time. You can go to that slide, Lillian. And it's a good time at this point to open it up for questions and answers.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. And Charlie, yes, let's start our Q&A section. So for everyone, if you want to open your mic and go ahead with your question, you're more than welcome.
Good morning. I have a couple of questions actually for Charlie. I was wondering, how do you track fan behavior when a fan's at the stadium and his or her ticket was purchased by another person?
So in-stadium behaviors aren't something that we are currently capturing. So the data that we're getting from individual club level is really our ticketing data. So that's our current data sets that we're working with. Obviously, down the line, hopefully that we would be able to get to a level where we're capturing some of the in-stadium data. But as of now, we still have a lot of things that we could do with the data sets that we're getting from the digital platforms as well as ticketing. So I think we have more work than more things that we could do with the current data sets that we have. In terms of the purchase data, as you know, I don't think there is a perfect solution out there at this point in terms of identifying or recognizing a single customer across different channels if they start using different emails and so on. We try to do our best, and what we do is we leverage various informations, including the third-party data that we get. So we look at email address, we look at their names, we look at their address, and we start from there to identify if they are the same person. And then, down the line, we're hoping to use additional ID that we would acquire. Maybe it could be mobile IDs down the line, or even IP addresses or other informations. But at this point, we are using a couple of data sets to identify whether or not that's the same person, and just work from there.
Okay, great, thank you. My next question. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, just let me throw in a couple of things. Charlie mentioned the issue. I think we all have at least 2 or 3 personal emails that we use, and one of them might be a real one, and the other 2 are to fend off all of the vendors trying to market to us. And so that's pretty much, what email do you use when you sign up for something, or including purchasing, and so that is a big challenge. The other thing is, in stadium, let's say tracking in stadium is really a challenge, and at this point is just getting started. But there are ways when you're using your mobile device and you're getting Wi-Fi from the stadium, there are ways to track that location and track where that Wi-Fi device goes. But again, that's also a challenge and is in its infancy. So I just wanted to throw that out.
You had another question?
Great. Yes, actually. Going back to the blueprint for success, it was mentioned that we needed to consider data management, analytics, and direct everything to fan functionality. However, the reality is that if this is not done in real time, it's still not actionable. So how do you enable that concept, and is it only with technology?
Sorry, can you clarify the question again?
Yes, so my question was that what you mentioned in the blueprint for success, that we needed to consider data management, analytics, and direct everything to fan functionality. So if this is not done in real time, you're still not actionable. My question was, how do you plan on enabling the concept?
Sure. So Right now, it is kind of a real time for us in terms of how they're all integrated with each other. Really, we use various different technologies for each of those areas, but really data warehouse is at the centerpiece where every data that are collected is being provided back to our clubs that they would have access to it, as well as using the marketing tools to create different trigger campaigns based on the behaviors that we see or the new data that comes in. Analytics, there's different levels of analytics that we apply. One is something that we would more of a project ad hoc and building different models, but there's also what we talked about in terms of trigger campaigns where, based on how they responded to certain communications, we're building out different journey and messaging so that we're able to address based on how people responded. So obviously, it's not a real time in terms of minute to minute, but we're trying to make it as close as possible. And I don't think in our industry we need to be kind of minute by minute kind of reaction. So I think what we're trying to do, I'm sure there's a lot of improvements that we can make with the current setting that we have, but we are at a point where all those three areas are integrated with each other and are currently being leveraged for our marketing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Kevin, do you want to add something?
I have a question for Kevin.
Okay, go ahead.
From an analytics perspective, I haven't seen that most technologies are very difficult to use. You need a data scientist in order to create and maintain a simple model. Of course, this turns out to be very expensive in dollars, time, and effort. One can spend over a month to deliver a model. My question would be, what option do we have here in order to become more agile?
So, so the question is about how to better build models and how to build models more quickly. Is that the focus of the question?
That's correct.
Okay. So analytics, applications are big and heavy, and it is a lot. It's not like a word processing application or anything like that. So that's true. They are big and complicated. There are, and again, Lillian is the director of our SAP practice here at Qualex, and SAP has a predictive analytics product that is really geared towards. It has an automation mode, or an automatic mode, meaning that you don't have to be a data scientist to use it. But with that being said, really, data science is about looking at the data and interpreting and understanding and being able to build knowledge and extract knowledge from that data. So you're right. It's not. You're not going to just. It's not. You're going to have trained people. That's true. And then as far as building models, and there a lot of the tools are big and heavy, but again, using them and specifically talking about SAP predictive analytics, using them in automated modes. Building a model is, once you build a model, the beauty is deploying it. So if I'm building a model around, let's take an example, ticket pricing. I'm looking to build a model about ticket pricing to fill a stadium, and I'm going to have a retail price, and I'm going to start dropping that price as I get closer to the game to make sure that I sell as many tickets as I need to fill that stadium. Now, it'd be great if every game was sold out and I didn't have to worry about that, but in this case, let's say I do. Once I build that model can be used at every single game and every single scenario around selling out a stadium. However, what's it take to build that model? Your question is about building the models efficiently and quickly, and it takes some time, because you've got to understand what are all the inputs that drive, let's say, the stadium being at full capacity. So I think that
I could add another comment there, and just give you some examples, and it kind of goes back to the vision and the objective, where at MLS we recognized that analytic was a core part of our business, and as same questions that you've had, we wanted to make sure that it was efficient. Can we have all the analytic analysts or advanced statisticians across all of our clubs, which would make 23 of them? And is that an efficient way to approach? So what we've decided was it would be helpful if we had some type of centralized resource that could build a model that can be shared across the league. But in order to do that, then we needed to make sure our technology architectural was reflecting the objectives. And that's one of the reasons why we went with centralized data warehouse, is because we were able to standardize the data across all of our clubs, so that when we do build a model for, say, for an example, for one club, we could actually take that model and roll it out across all of our clubs if it works out well, because they're all on the same platform and having a same standard data set. So sometimes it's not just about the resource, but it's also about recognizing the importance and then making sure that your technology architectural is reflecting, so that you're able to scale across your organization.
Thank you, Charlie. So there is another question. Paul, do you want to open your mic and go ahead?
Yes, thank you. What strikes me is that the data analysis leads to insights that need to be converted into either marketing opportunities or programming within a club, or reaching out to specific audiences. Can you talk about the collaboration between the data side of the house and the programming and planning groups?
Sure. So at the league office, we are under the same team. So I oversee both the analytic as well as the CRM. So we're kind of managing the architectural as well as the data, but also using those insights to help out and develop and execute our marketing strategies. Very similar cases for a lot of our clubs that oversee both of the side of the analytic as well as the CRM. And then there's the whole collaboration between the league and our club. So, annually we have 2 in-person meetings for training as well as sharing best practices. We have monthly calls with key stakeholders in CRM analytics to discuss best practices, some of the successful programs that they've executed, and through that they're able to replicate and implement across other clubs as well. So there's a very strong collaboration among between the clubs as well as club and leagues, even and within the organizations.
Thank you, Charlie. Well, I know that we're a little bit over time, so guys, thank you very much. If you have additional questions, please feel free to email me. Here you have my email address. And well, thank you again, Charlie and Kevin, for such a great session. And obviously, we look forward to seeing you all again in our next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.